My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content.
Hey gang, welcome back. Today we got another special treat. We have the $2 billion man, Mr. Brad Blazar, and Brad has raised a lot of capital for a lot of different things, including real estate, but also for oil and gas. He's written books about it. He coaches people about it. He consults about it. He partners with people doing it. He's very, very involved in capital raising. So, Brad, thanks so much for being on the show again. It's an absolute pleasure, my friend.
It's a pleasure to be back with you today, Dave.
All right. So Brad, we're recording this, getting towards the end of February of 2026. Since the last time we had you on the show, things have kind of gone topsy-turvy a bit with the whole, especially the multifamily real estate space, a lot of uncertainty in capital markets, increased cost of money in a lot of cases, a lot more cost for insurance and construction. A lot of things are different than they were a few years ago when it was the heyday. So let's talk a little bit about what you see in the trenches that's not working and that is working these days with capital raising.
Well, let's start with what's not working.
Yeah, please.
That's certainly much easier, as we all know that have been around for a while in commercial real estate, multifamily especially. A lot of deals stalled, for lack of a better word. Distributions were disrupted. Obviously, properties went back to lenders, and there's obviously lots of investors out there with sour taste in their mouth. And so they're very apprehensive about making decisions moving forward. I think the amount of diligence they're doing on sponsors is increased tremendously, where, they're licking their wounds, asking better questions. But there's still some apprehension. What I'm seeing, which is interesting, is I think right now is a great time to be buying real estate. I was talking to my partner today, Paul, and I said, hey, let's host a couple events. Let's get out there and be more prevalent in our message, because I think right now there's just a lot of really attractive opportunities. What we do and do a little differently is I learned this a long time ago when I was in the oil business. Most people that are out raising capital will ultimately get to a point where they cap out, meaning their well runs dry, whether it's family and friends, whether it's just, their network of accredited investors. And I think everybody that has successfully raised capital as an operator definitely would say, yeah, I definitely want to raise more money, and I want to do it quicker, and I want to do it more efficiently. And what I've come to realize is it would take a hell of a long time, a lot of telephone calls, and a lot of meetings to find 20 accredited investors. So what I have taught people how to do is focus some of their energy on building relationships with other people that can give you access to lots of rich, wealthy people.
So find people that already have groups of these folks.
You got it.
They connected to, yeah.
So what we do, and what many of my clients and students do, is we build strategic relationships with very small boutique registered investment advisors. These aren't the big behemoth billion-dollar giants. These are small RIAs that maybe have 60, 100 wealthy families in the community. Maybe they're managing $300 million, $600 million. And their process of doing due diligence is really more of a gut check. They're not going to go through an investment committee and the whole rigmarole of hiring third-party due diligence firms like a broker-dealer might. It's like, hey, dude, take us to lunch a couple times. We'll read through your literature. We'll check you out. And if we feel good about you, we'll allocate some capital. And so, you don't need many people like that, Dave. I remember when I was in the oil business, what really kind of awakened me is I had a good friend that had been watching me from the sidelines, and he just reached out to me one day and said, hey, I think what you're doing would be very suitable for some of the clients whose money we manage. And so we got together, And we went through the diligence process. We did a small event. He gathered about 15 to 20 of his better clients. And I showed up. I spoke for about 35 minutes. And in 2.5 weeks, $2.5 million, $3 million showed up in our bank account. And he did all the work. And I'm like, what am I doing? Picking up checks for $50,000 and $100,000, busting my butt, making calls, hosting events. This is the much smarter, much more effective way to go about raising capital. And so what we really have seen work well is building strategic partnerships with these allocators. They send us money. We don't have to build trust with investors. They've already got the trust. It's just immediately transferred the second we walk in the door. And then, of course, we're also attending many industry events, building those relationships in person, as well as getting introduced to family offices. The family office space today is sitting on a lot of gunpowder. Mm-hmm. And they're deploying capital to operators that are seasoned, that can perform, that are really, really experienced. And so those are the things that are working extremely well. For us, we raised a little over $1 million in the span of about 2 weeks through 2 registered investment advisors. And we basically advise others to do that because, number one, you can raise a lot more money much quicker. And you don't have to go through the brain damage of making lots of calls, getting rejected.
That is amazing advice. Very, very smart, very leveraged. Yeah, so I'm going to put myself in the shoes of somebody watching or listening to this and say, okay, that sounds good for Brad Blazar. He's all over the place. He's written books. He's pretty well known. He's got, lots of followers. What about little old B, Joe Schmo syndicator? I've got some experience. I've done all right. I've tapped out friends and family. I've kind of tapped out my investor base. Most of my deals have done pretty well, but there are 1 or 2 that are kind of stuck. Could we take a longer, blah, blah, blah. That kind of scenario, which I'm sure some of your clients and students are already.
You bet.
Yeah. So how do we get started? First of all, how do we even find these RIAs? Mm-hmm. And what do you recommend people do to make that initial connection?
Well, first of all, what I will tell you is you can borrow a track record. Anybody that's in commercial real estate knows that. Co-GPs, KPs, you build your team, and now the story is not you. It's the collective experience of our team exceeds 75 years in the real estate business. That's what these small boutique RIAs really are looking for. Yeah. What I always point to as well is 2 case studies where I was hired to come in to 2 companies that were absolute startups, meaning they had no track record, they had no portfolio, they just were a CEO hiring me and a couple other guys to start a real estate investment firm. And the strategy that we deployed was this exact strategy. And in both instances, we raised well over $100 million in the first 12 months. And in one instance, we raised just under $200 million. And it was just that rather than dealing with accredited investors, we were just knocking on doors of small boutique registered investment advisors that have these.
But the first job, I guess, was to get that CEO connected with somebody with.
Exactly. You got it. It was building the team, the securities attorney, the CPA firm, property management. But for the average individual that's out there as your listener, there are plenty of lists that are available for free online. There's other platforms, of course, that you can subscribe to for a small monthly fee. One platform is called Fintrix, Fintrx. And for a small nominal fee, it'll give you the whole universe of all the registered investment advisors that are out there. And you can run filters. You can see what size they are, how much they have in assets, what they deploy capital in. Because you want to be a little bit more, focused rather than just randomly calling out to these firms. And so I spend about a minute on their website. I look at, how many people that are on their team. And if I see, there's just 2 or 3 guys here with their secretary, that's my target. If I see a huge organization managing $3 billion, I'm like, nah, they ain't for me. They're doing business probably with, BlackRock or Apollo or Starwood or, one of these big $1 billion managers. But for the average guy that's been successful, raising $5, $10, $15 million, that has a small track record under his belt, this is by far the way to scale and raise capital in 2026. And here's the thing. You only need 2 or 3 guys. That's sending you $5 to $10 million.
Yeah.
And whammo, there's $15-20 million, which is way more than you're probably going to raise by yourself, picking up checks for 50 or 100.
Hey there, if you're a capital raiser, a syndicator, or a fund manager, and you're looking for a steady flow of incoming accredited investor leads, then go ahead, grab a free copy of my new book, How to Get 20 Accredited Investor Meetings Every Month Without Cold Calling, Networking, or Chasing People. You can get that at 20accreditedinvestorsbook.com. Again, that's the number 20accreditedinvestorsbook.com.
All right. So again, playing the devil's advocate here, or the beginner kind of just tiptoeing into this space, what recommendations do you have for people for making that initial outreach, that initial connection? And then say you do get booked in for a meeting. What do those typically look like, Brad? Are those over the phone or on Zoom? Do you fly out to meet these guys? How does that typically?
Question. So the first thing is you have to look the part. So many operators spend time putting together the pitch deck, putting together their marketing material. And that's great if you're raising capital from other mom and pops. But when you're going more towards an institutional avenue like this, you really want to have the expertise of somebody coming in and giving you constructive feedback. So the first thing that we really focus on is branding and making sure that you're investor ready for this audience of people. Number two, it's really understanding two things, what I call an investor conversation framework, and number two, a capital narrative framework. The biggest mistake most people make, Dave, when they go out to raise capital, if they're new to this, is they pitch way too early in the relationship. And the other person, of course, that they're presenting a deal to is going to be very polite. They're going to say, "Oh, Dave, it sounds like a very interesting deal. Can you send me some information so I could take a closer look at it?" Well, let's be honest. That's what everybody says. So now you send them everything, and then they ghost you and they disappear. What's happening in that type of an environment is that other person is saying, "Hey, Dave, man, we just met. We've only had one date here, and now you're asking me to write a check. I'm not an ATM machine. I'm a human being." So we slow down the process. We use this capital, what I call conversation framework, which really is just, hey, it's all about them. And with family offices, with registered investment advisory firms, even with broker-dealers, we've raised hundreds of millions from broker-dealers. The first two interactions or meetings should be all about them. And a very, very light pitch, like a subtle tease, because you want to discover their investor mandate. You want to make sure that there is an alignment. We're not just looking for capital, we're looking for long-term strategic relationships. And so we ask them things like, what's your investment mandate? When you invest, what do you look for in worthy sponsors? What's your time horizon? What's the typical size of your investment allocation? And so we listen, and what that does is it builds much more trust because we're not coming at them asking for money in the initial meetings. We're focusing our attention on really understanding them, understanding their concerns, understanding their risk tolerance, all those things that are very, very important to that audience of people. And then eventually we turn the situation around to what we offer. And if there's an alignment, of course, we then move forward and we explore what that relationship can look like.
Very, very smart. I mean, it just makes sense, right? Just if you meet somebody for the first time, you don't want to just hit them up for a check immediately, even though they're in that business. Theoretically, they're looking for good deals, and you think you've got the best deal since sliced bread. You want to take it slow. Okay, so with your students and clients that are getting started with doing this, step number one, make sure they look the part.
Yeah.
Their website, the branding, all that kind of good stuff. Make sure that their materials are looking good. Make sure that when they have the meeting, they aren't showing up dressed like this. They look at the part.
They look good. Yeah.
Now, are they typically meeting with these people face to face initially, flying out to meet them? They doing this over Zoom? What are you seeing these days?
Well, I mean, you can initiate the outreach with a telephone call. So, you can obviously subscribe to a database like we had explained earlier. There's lots of free places you can go on the internet. I think it initially starts with outreach through a telephone call to see even if they're receptive and they're investing in what we call alternative investments. The second thing, though, is that over the course of the year, there are many events that are curated and hosted that bring this audience together and then bring in people that are seeking to raise capital. And I go to about 35 to 40 of these events. I'm actually flying out tonight to an event in Atlanta that I'll be at with many of the people that we work with. And so it's creating that proximity in person. See, now you're sitting down having breakfast together, or you're meeting at a cocktail reception that's coordinated at the end of the day, and you're networking and you're gathering leads. Now, obviously, we know the most important thing is good follow-up after the interest is initiated. But really, to crack into the family office space, the easiest way to do that is through the annual events that are hosted throughout the year. RIAs, not so much, but family offices have gatekeepers. They have very junior people that are analysts on the team that are really just looking at lots and lots of deals. But when you go to the event, guess who you're meeting? You're meeting the patriot decision maker. You're meeting the guy that sold his business for $800 million that was brought in as a keynote speaker that's up there on the podium, and he's approachable. He's a person. I was at an event that we went to down in Palm Beach, and Jeff Hoffman was there. He was one of the founders of basically Priceline.com. Guy's a billionaire. And so very, very open to sitting down, talking to everybody. And we've had Lee Steinberg, the founder of the Steinberg Sports and Entertainment Agency, at events, and other professional athletes. All these people are approachable. So the events are definitely part of our strategy and the strategy of many of the people that we work with. Now, for those people that are on a limited budget, that can't travel, that can't, pay for airfare and hotels and do all those things, the best thing is just a phone call and then scheduling a Zoom. And then that way, of course, you're interacting much like we are here, Dave, where you can look at the person, share documents, and really they get a sense of who you are, and they understand your values. But again, it's really just, looking presentable.
Smart. Brad, this is great stuff. Time flies when we're having fun and talking about raising capital. I'm sure a lot of our listeners and viewers are going to say, hey, that Brad seems like a heck of a smart guy. How can I get myself some more of him? So what's the best way for people to connect with you or find out more or get into your world?
Well, there's two ways. Number one is you can follow us on social media, Instagram. Just look for me on the little blue certified check mark or whatever they give you nowadays, so that you know that there's not somebody out there that's my mini-me version of me. So it's just Brad Blazar, Blazar on Instagram. Shoot me a DM, be a follower, be a subscriber to my YouTube channel. We got some great interviews there. We got some great educational content. And then just come to my website and contact us through my contact page. You got my books there. You got a lot of information about our upcoming boot camp in April. Love to have some of your students there. Love to have you as a speaker, perhaps. But I'm pretty easy to find when you just put my name in social media, I'm sure, like yours.
Awesome, Brad. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And we'll be keeping in touch, that's for sure.
All righty. Well, enjoyed it. Take care.
All right, everybody, take care, and we'll see you on the next one.
Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewsyou.com.